It's important to acknowledge right off the bat, wizard staff, that actual historical druids bore little resemblance to the sorcerers and magic wielders we see in pop culture interpretations today. Classical accounts describe druids not as practitioners of the dark arts or black magic, but as moral philosophers, natural scientists, and arbiters of peace and justice. In Irish mythology, druids are sort of a combination of both. They're wise beyond their years, intellectual heroes if you will, but they also have superpowers. Let's dive in. Mo Grúingel. Everyone loves a good underdog story, so how about the one where the one-eyed, or in some versions completely blind fella from Munster becomes one of Ireland's most celebrated druids, even earning the title of Archdruid? That is the legacy of Mo Grúingel, whose name means slave of the wheel. The significance of that name will become clear in a moment, but first, a quick overview of Mo Grúigel's power set. Quote, by merely blowing his breath, he could dry up waters or raise tempests, end quote. That's according to James McKillop's A Dictionary of Celtic Mythology. Although in another iteration of the character, Mo Grúigel's breath can turn people to stone. The Archdruid, can also grow to giant size. He has an ox-driven chariot that glows as bright as the daytime sun, even at night, and he has a rock that can transform into a poisonous eel when he tosses it into water. But of all these powers and contraptions that the Archdruid possesses, there is one that outshines the rest. Maybe not literally, given the chariot, but figuratively. I'm talking about Mo Grúigel's famous flying machine, the Roch Ramach, which can be translated as oared wheel or rowing wheel. According to legend, Mo Grúingel built the flying wheel with the help of none other than Simon Magus, aka Simon the Magician. In the Bible, Simon is depicted as a Samaritan, Magus, plural magi, yes, those magi, which is a priestly caste that is really not all too dissimilar from the ancient Druid caste, come to think of it. Simon is not your stereotypical good Samaritan, mind you. In Acts chapter 8, verses 9 through 24, it's revealed that he uses sorcery to bewitch his people so they'll worship him as a god. And in apocryphal texts, stories that didn't make it into the Bible but were often widely circulated, Simon can levitate and fly. Thus, we can see how the Christian scribes of Ireland, hunched over vellum in their stone monasteries and towers, might think of Simon Magus when recording the legend of this Mo Grúingel and his incredible flying wheel. Ah, they might have whispered, another pagan sorcerer who craved the power of the one true god. Who does that remind us of? But instead of using their quills to strip Mo Grúingel of his godlike powers, Ireland's Christian scribes instead stripped the Archdruid of his reputation by associating him with the oft-maligned Simon Magus. To quote McKillop, because he was a champion of paganism against Christianity, a learned Christian medieval interpolator made Mo Grúingel an associate of Simon Magus, Irish Simon Druid, a bitter opponent of St. Peter and later ecclesiastical legend. End quote. Be Cúilla. Be cool, everyone. Be Cúilla's got this. Or at least that was the case when the Athenian warrior/sorceress Carmen set out to conquer Ireland with her trio of sons, popularly known as Dove, Darkness, Dian, Violence, and Dother, Evil. Granted, in his Dictionary of Irish Mythology, historian Peter Beresford Ellis names a slightly different roster of ferocious sons, dubbing them Dove, again meaning black or darkness, comma, meaning valiant, and Ulk, meaning bad or evil. Names aside, this was a bit of a four horsemen of the apocalypse situation, or rather a three sons and a mum of the apocalypse situation, because the would-be invaders used their dark powers to cause a blight that killed all of Ireland's crops. Yeah, Carmen wasn't messing around, but neither were the Irish gods, the Tuatha Dé Danann. The druidess Be Cúilla, daughter of the cattle and fertility goddess Flide, answered the call alongside three others from her divine tribe. These were Lugh, the god of many talents, sometimes referred to as a magician in this story, Crickambell, a satirist, and Éac Ullaman, a god of poetry. Of the four heroes, it is Be Cúilla, the Irish druidess, who proves the most effective on the battlefield, as she is the only one powerful enough to subdue the Greek sorceress Carmen's magic. End result, Carmen's sons are banished from Ireland, while Carmen herself is imprisoned in Wexford, and ultimately she dies for missing her son so much. The Tuatha Dé Danann, out of respect, bury her and name the place where she's buried after her, and then they institute a festival in her honor, the Onec Carmen, or Fair of Carmen, which is celebrated on August 1st, the same date as Lunasa, namesake of the aforementioned god Lugh. You'd think the Tuatha Dé Danann would have named the festival after Be Cúilla, the druid goddess who single-handedly saved Ireland from certain destruction, but nope, they went with their sworn enemy, or so the story goes. In reality, it's likely that Gaels of ancient Leinster attached the Carmen moniker to a pre-existing harvest goddess whom they made offerings to during their annual Summer First Fruits Festival, a festival that would eventually be co-opted by Lugh cultists and turned into Lunasa, but that's a story for another video. Weirdly, or predictably, this isn't the only instance of what I'm calling Be Cúilla blasphemy. In a later battle, the Second Battle of Moytora to be precise, Be Cúilla reappears as one of
lose witches. She's been downgraded from deity/druid to witch, no offense to witches, and in the hierarchy of Irish heroes, she's no longer lose equal, he's the boss. Still, Beicula is wicked powerful, pardon my Boston.
When asked how she will contribute in the fight against their formidable Fomorian foes, Beicula responds that she will enchant trees, stones, and sods of earth and wield them as weapons
against the enemies of the Tuatha Dé Danann.
Cava. The Ulster cycle, aka Red Branch cycle of Irish mythology, makes clear that no one was allowed to speak in Conor MacNessa's presence lest he, the king, had spoken first.
With one exception, Cava, Conor MacNessa's chief druid. When in the presence of the druid, it was the king who waited to speak, and for good reason. Cava had a perfect prophecy record, and boy is his first one a doozy.
After making his way to Emin-Macha, the seat of royal power of the Ule kingdom, the County Galway-born druid is questioned by Ness, aka Nessa, daughter of Eoa Selbuia,
Yellowheel. What is now a good time for? Ness asks him. Cava responds, for begetting a king upon a queen. Then he swears by the gods that if Ness gets pregnant immediately, the resulting offspring would be remembered in Ireland forever. Ness believes the druid, and since there are no other men about, she takes Cava to bed. That's how the great Ulster king Conor MacNessa is conceived. Yep, in this version of the story, Cava is not only the king's personal druid, but his father. And if you want to start keeping score at home, this also marks the first of Cava's prophecies that has, at least so far, proven to be 100% accurate. Conor MacNessa is still remembered in Ireland and elsewhere. After his fling with Ness, Cava marries Maga, the widow of Ross the Red, and together they have 3 daughters, all of whom are destined to give birth to Red Branch heroes. There's Dectira, future mother of Cuchulainn, arguably Ireland's greatest hero, Finhaim, future mother of Conall of the Victories, and Elba, future mother of Nisha. Yes, that Nisha, the one who falls in love with Deirdre of the Sorrows. And that brings us to a couple of Cava's other prophecies, one being that the Irish champion Cuchulainn would lead an exciting and glorious but brief life, he was killed at 27, and a second being that Deirdre's great beauty would end up tearing Ulster asunder. That's happening in 3, 2, 1. So Deirdre was supposed to marry Conor MacNessa, but instead she runs off with Nisha, and now Conor MacNessa is upset, but eventually he seemingly forgives them and invites Nisha and his brothers back to Ulster for a visit. Of course, it's a trap. Cava is persuaded to lure Nisha out of the Red Branch hostel, and here's the best part. When Conor MacNessa launches his surprise attack, the druid conjures some green slime to bog down the king's opponents, making them easy to overtake. However, Cava ultimately will come to regret his role in the scheme, because instead of dealing with his prisoners in accordance with the laws of hospitality, as well as his own personal assurances of safety, Conor MacNessa has Nisha and his brothers murdered. Cava is so furious he curses the king and Emin-Macha. War breaks out shortly thereafter, and Emin-Macha is burnt to the ground, thus fulfilling another of Cava's prophecies. Amergin Glúingel. He's the human who went toe-to-toe with the Irish gods and won. Meet Amergin Glúingel, whose surname means white knees, although it's sometimes given as Glunmar, meaning big knee. Amergin is one of the 7 sons of Mil Espania, Latinized as Milesius, the mythological forefather of Ireland's Gaelic Celtic population. It was the Milesians coming from Spain who would mount the last successful invasion of ancient Ireland, defeating the Irish gods, the Tuatha Dé Danann, and sending them underground to their Chuille, or fairy mounds. None of that would have been possible, however, without Amergin. Arguably the first human druid to appear in Irish mythology, Amergin helps negotiate the rules of engagement with the Tuatha Dé Danann. The two parties agree that the Milesians will temporarily retreat in their ships back beyond the magical boundary known as the 9th Wave. Then, after an agreed upon signal, the Milesians will be allowed to return to shore and the fighting will commence. Only, the Milesians aren't allowed to return to shore. The Tuatha Dé Danann give the signal, but then those crafty Irish deities have their druids conjure up a fierce storm, making it impossible for the Milesian fleet to land. Several ships are lost, taking many Milesian lives with them, including the lives of 5 of Amergin's own brothers, one of whom is Dawn, who would later be reimagined as a god of death. The remaining Milesians, seeing no path to victory, are keen to retreat. That's where Amergin comes in. The Milesian druid/bard will not stand for the deceitfulness of the Tuatha Dé Danann, nor will he tuck tail and run. So he sings an invocation calling on the spirit of Ireland to aid his people, and I quote, "That they that are tossing in the great wide food-giving sea may reach now to the land, that they may find a place upon its plains, its mountains and its valleys, in its forests that are full of nuts and of all fruits, on its rivers and in its streams, on its lakes and its great waters, that we may have our gatherings and our races in this land, that there may be a king of our own in Tara, that it may be the possession of our many kings, that the sons of Melid may be seen in this land, that their ships and their boats may find a place there. This land that is now under darkness, it is for it we are asking. Let our chief men, let their learned wives, ask that we may come to the noble woman, great Eru." After reciting this incantation, the wind ceases. The The seas grow calm, and the Milesians are able to land at Inverskeen, near what is now Bantry Bay, County Cork.
Amergin becomes the first Milesian, the first Gaelic Celtic human to set foot
on Irish soil. The Druid marks the occasion by making the following decree, now known as the Song of Amergin. I am the wind on the sea. I am the wave of the sea. I am the bull of 7 battles. I am the eagle on the rock. I am a flash from the sun. I am the most beautiful of plants. I am a strong wild boar. I am a salmon in the water. I am a lake in the plain. I am the word of knowledge. I am the head of the spear in battle. I am the god that puts fire in the head. Who spreads light in the gathering on the hills? Who can tell the ages of the moon? Who can tell the place where the sun rests? Following the Milesian invasion, the Tuatha Dé Danann are driven underground, where they will shrink both literally and figuratively in popular imaginations until they become the fairies, or Aishi, people of the hills. Amergin, in true Irish Druid fashion, gets to play kingmaker and crowns his brother Eramon as the first Milesian king of Ireland. The rest, as they say, is mythology. If you enjoyed this video, please like and comment, and basically just tap all of the little buttons, and by the end of it, make sure you are subscribed to the Irish Myths channel. That really helps. And if you want to see the full list of the 10 most powerful druids from Irish mythology, check the description below, or just head over to irishmyths.com and you can find my original post there. Might I also recommend my book Samhain in Your Pocket, a tiny little book about the Celtic origins of Halloween. You'll learn cool things like how jack-o'-lanterns started out as hollowed out turnips people would use to carry embers from druidic fires lit in Samhain back to their homes to relight their hearth fires. Neat. My name is I.E. Neverday, editor of the short story collection Neon Druid and creator of irishmyths.com. Thanks for coming up.